Is
Channel 13. I wonder if he wants to
on hold for a second.
maybe somebody was playing with
Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October 2014. Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, gender, and income levels, and whereas domestic violence is widespread and affects 4 million Americans each year, and whereas 1 in 3 Americans have witnessed an incident of domestic violence, and whereas children that grow up in violent homes are believed to be abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average, and whereas domestic violence costs the nation billions of dollars annually in medical expenses, police and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, and absenteeism, and non-productivity, and whereas only a coordinated community's effort will put a stop to this heinous crime, and whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy services and assistance to victims. Now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge the citizens of Prescott to work together to eliminate domestic violence from our community.
Thank you so much. Okay, is on? Okay, thank you. I happily accept your proclamation declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I applaud your efforts and I support you for wanting a violence-free community. My name is Catherine Chapman. I am the director of the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center. We support victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse. I'm also part of a coordinated community response team of which your police department is a part of. It consists of law enforcement, Child Protective Services, or DCS now, many other entities in our community that aim to do the same thing that you're doing, is creating a violence-free community. I support the law enforcement officers that are standing here next to me. Domestic violence cases are one of the most dangerous incidences to go out on. I applaud their courage and their tenacity and your support for victims of violence. I also want to let you know about an event that we're doing. It's called Take Back the Night. We're doing a candlelight vigil. It is October 1st at the Prescott Valley patio, and it is our way of saying no to violence in our communities. We will hear from survivors of domestic violence. We will have a keynote speaker, which is your Chief of Police, Chief Monahan. He will talk about his role in domestic violence and helping to stop it. We will also be lighting candles to honor those homicide victims in our community over the last, since 2008. And we have about, unfortunately, 12 candles to light for victims, which come from all over Yavapai County. So I thank you so much for your support. I appreciate what you all do.
Where is the Prescott Valley patio?
Prescott Valley, it's right next to the Prescott Valley Civic Center, which is in between the library and the Prescott Valley Police Department. Okay, and you'll see we'll have tents up with lighted tents and displays, and you can't miss it.
Thanks, Greg. Let's move along. The consent agenda is 8 items. Any comments on any of the items among the council? Seeing, hearing none, do we have a motion?
Mayor, move to approve consent agenda items 1A through 1H.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Let's vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay. Okay, let's move to the regular agenda, item A.
Item 2A, award of bid and contract for the Chino Piping Reconfiguration Water Compound Realignments Project to to CNB Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $231,800. City contract number 2015-043.
Okay. Good afternoon, Joel.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. This is the third agenda item that's been brought to council in relation to this project. The first item was an easement to construct a dedicated transmission pipeline. The second item was for materials to build that dedicated transmission pipeline. And now this item, the third item, is to reconfigure piping within the water production facility, or the compound as we commonly refer to it as. The reconfiguration will provide the infrastructure necessary to completely separate the water transmission pipes from the water distribution pipes. And this is a fairly complex area as it relates to pipes. In the staff report, you'll see a schematic that depicts the overall piping configuration. There is several pipes out there dating back 60 years, 50 years, some of them even newer. So this project will clean up that piping configuration and get us to a point where everything is routed directly into our tank for supply purposes, and then everything that leaves the tank will be for distribution purposes. The benefits of this project include reduction of sampling points. That is critically important to the city of Prescott, not only the city government, but also our customers. It reduces the laboratory sampling cost and the man-hours associated with gathering those samples. It's quite a complex process between the city and the Department of Environmental Quality as it relates to the frequency of sampling, the sampling sites, et cetera. It will provide a clear picture of exactly what's happening out there at the water production compound. The project was procured pursuant to state and city procurement codes, and the lowest bidder has been verified through licensing, bonding, and reference checks. A pre-award meeting was held with the contractor to convey a mutual understanding of the project, its sequence, and the criticality. And staff is recommending this contract for approval. At this time, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Questions, council?
Yep, Mayor, Joel, is this the final portion of this project? Will this complete the reconfiguration?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion?
Mayor, move to award the bid and contract for Chino Piping Reconfiguration Water Compound Realignments Project to CNB Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $231,800, city contract number 2015-043.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
I'd like to jump back and just ask one question, John, on item H on the consent agenda. I missed it. Our agreement with the city of Glendale for police services. Reading the agreement, I see where it talks about workman's comp, but I find no place that it talks about contribution to PSPRS for the money that they receive from Glendale. Should there be something in there?
Mayor, anytime under that IGA, if the city were to send one or more of its police officers to Glendale, they become temporary employees of the city of Glendale. So Glendale would cover all of the costs associated with that, the hourly pay, the workers' comp, if there is a PSPRS contribution, Glendale would pay it. Now, without getting too complex, under the statute, there are a bunch of requirements for employees to qualify for PSPRS in terms of the number of months one has to work and the average number of hours. I'm not really sure that under these couple, 2-3 days of possible work that there would be any PSPRS contribution, but if there was, Glendale would be liable for all of the costs for that if there was any contribution. So
So you
essentially,
think that's covered?
It is.
In the,
It is
well,
there.
I was looking for it specifically, if something should happen to somebody while they were on duty there.
Fully covered. They become, for workers' comp purposes, for any kind of disability purposes
Okay,
are covered.
great.
Yeah, Mayor, I
Appreciate
just
that.
wanted to add, since you brought up the subject, I had a question on that too, and this is on a strictly voluntary basis. We're not assigning anybody to this duty, but if they want to sign up for it, they're free to do it, so.
And just to clarify, it's actually, not only is it voluntary, but it has to be still approved, but it's to the police department's discretion whether to allow somebody to go, depending on Prescott's needs first. So there's a lot of sort of, test points before an officer would actually go down to Glendale for, again, probably one of maybe up to 3 events that would occur this year.
Okay. Anyone else want to raise the subject? Okay. Let's move on to item B on the regular agenda.
Item 2B, approval of purchase of water meters from Badger Meter Incorporated, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in amount not to exceed $65,166.10, utilizing City of Glendale contract number IFB 14-36 pricing, city contract number 2015-039.
Thank you. This item will purchase an amount of water meters adequate to meet the city's need for approximately 1 year. The procurement is based on a cooperative use of contract clause with the City of Glendale. The City of Glendale solicited bids back in May of 2014, which included an estimated quantity of meters that the City of Prescott may need. Although the City of Prescott's not committed to purchasing the meters under this contract, the city has the ability to reap the benefit from an economy of scale perspective. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Comment? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to recommend motion to approve the purchase of water meters from Badger Meter Incorporated, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the amount not to exceed $65,166.10, utilizing City of Glendale contract pricing, City of Prescott contract number 2015-039.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Mr. Lozelle?
Okay.
Passes 6-0.
Item C, when you're ready.
Item 2C, adoption of resolution number 4242-1451, approving change order number 2 to an intergovernmental agreement with the Yavapai County Flood Control District, city contract number 2015-041, to accept $700,000 in additional district funding for the Cliff Rose Black Hawk area drainage improvement projects.
Good afternoon, Henry.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Henry Hash, Public Works. Just want to get my book in here. The county is going to transfer another $700,000 to us to complete the project. Previously, we had an interlocal agreement, and they gave us $890,000 to complete a project. Basically, the project was, part of it was completed, but the other part was not. That's why we are asking $700,000 to complete the rest. The Cliff Rose part of previously the project was Cliff Rose Black Hawk area. With $890,000, which was fully expended, we were able to do the Cliff Rose. The $700,000 is to complete the remaining of the project. We have the design ready to go, and we would hope to bring this back to you for award of contract later this year in December. And we have Mr. Mark DeBroy, our drainage engineer, here to answer any detailed questions that you may have.
Steve?
Yeah, I have a question, and Henry, I know you're new, but something that tends to pester me a little bit is the fact that these subdivisions are relatively new. And I often wonder why it was that the developer at the time, when they were approved, the plats were approved at the city of Prescott, that these drainage requirements weren't part of the overall plat. And now after we have developed and we come back and find that we have drainage issues and we're using taxpayers' money to correct issues that should have been done by the developer when the land was developed. How do we respond to that today?
I don't know if I have a good response for you, Councilman Blair, but I certainly agree with you. We have done this in the past. We are seriously talking with our staff, talk to our city manager. These are some of the issues that we need to pay attention to make sure that in the future, these things won't happen. I personally have had a philosophy and a policy supported by my boards in the past that these developments should not cost us any money before, during, or after. But that has not necessarily been the case always. We are trying to correct that. That's why we are doing some changes, some restructuring within our department to make sure when we inspect it thoroughly, that we don't miss anything in the future. Unfortunately, for what we have accepted in the past, and now this is our responsibility to take care of. We'll try to learn from those experiences in the past and move forward in the future.
Would those, I'm just out of curiosity, I know that Prescott Lakes, when they came through with their final plat, they were asked to do sheet flows and do total drainage flows for the whole development. I mean, when you have a piece of land and you know by code how big the building can be and how big the parking service has to be based upon what's going in the building, it would seem to me that the drainage issue should be clarified on the front end of the final plat for all the stages of development within that, within reason within that development. So I'm just wondering if within this new code that we're getting ready to look at approving today, if those issues are addressed within the new code, and that would be a question I'll have later. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie?
Mayor, thank you. And Steve, in follow-up to your question, and Mr. McConnell, you may be able to follow up on my statement. My understanding is when these two were done, the city either didn't have a drainage criteria manual or we had a very limited engineering program at that time related to drainage, which we've now changed.
I believe that's the case, Councilman. What we find literally decades, and we are talking decades after these projects were engineered, we did not have in place at that time the drainage criteria manual, the standards that we now have. Effectively, we require a higher level of service be achieved. Even so, there are always issues in terrain of this type. It's impossible to identify exactly what size of house is going to go on that lot. The lot is sold, and then the lot is improved. Those improvements are, the house itself, the landscaping, decorative things and so forth. And, it is the accumulation in many cases of all of those differences or all those very specific improvements. When you accumulate all those, you get drainage patterns sometimes that are not as anticipated. So it can be the accumulation or the collection of various influences. However, with respect to the overall situation with the drainage criteria manual, we provide enough conveyance so that the water may not flow like anybody thought it was going to flow, but when it gets to the street or the drainage ways now, they are going to be adequate to convey those flows.
Thank you.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. McConnell, for pointing out a couple of those things. And, been here a long time, just like the mayor has been. At one time we were a lot of dirt streets. We didn't have all the houses. We didn't have all the commercial. We didn't have all the pavement. We didn't have all the things that affect flow. And then every now and then God plays a different issue and you get different amount of rain than you anticipate. This year we got a lot more rain than most people would have thought we were going to get. So sometimes you don't know until you get there what's going to happen. And then you're responding to a circumstance rather than planning for it because you didn't know it was coming. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think it was at the fault of the developers. I don't think it was at the fault of the planners. I don't think it was at the fault of the inspectors. It's just stuff that happens, and you say, well, we didn't anticipate that. and you don't always know what's coming. You learn sometimes, so.
Okay. Anyone else? Any comments from the public on this item? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion?
Mayor, move to adopt resolution number 4242-1451.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, vote please.
Passes 6-0.
Item D.
Thank you.
Item 2D, approval of one, acceptance of an Arizona Department of Transportation 90% funding grant in the amount of $270,000 for design of improvements, including relocation of the airfield, electrical vault, upgrading of the emergency generator, and installation of lighting for taxiway E. And 2, authorization of services number 3 for accomplishment of the design by Dibble Engineering in an amount not to exceed $290,797, city contract number 2014-029A3.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For your consideration, as stated, is a grant acceptance for the city from ADOT in the amount of $270,000 for the design of safety improvements at the airport. These include the relocation of electrical vault, an electrical vault that has exceeded its useful life and difficult to maintain. The emergency generator is more than 25 years old and is failing. The taxiway lighting is not in place and has never been in place, but is required by FAA. And also adding the replacement of a segmented circle, which is used by pilots for air traffic navigation. These 4 items are being improved and upgraded. We are also requesting authorization for design work by Dibble Engineering in an amount not to exceed $290,797 under an existing city contract 2014-029A3. This is an authorization for engineering services under an existing on-call contract. Dibble was awarded this contract for design and engineering services by council in September of 2013. The city's airport fund for 2015 includes the $30,000 match that is required for this 90-10 grant. And airport manager John Cox, along with Ken Snyder of Dibble Engineering, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have about these projects.
Steve?
Just a question on Dibble Engineering. How long is that on-call contract good for?
The contract is for 3 years, and it has 2 one-year options.
Have we been happy with Dibble Engineering?
Yes, we have. Very pleased with their services.
Thank you.
Chris?
You know, we're thinking about doing some real good upgrades out there at the airport. These improvements that we're doing, do they have that in mind? Or will they, you know, when we get this done, we won't have to go back and dig them up in a few years?
Definitely, Councilman. These are foundation improvements that are really needed for the overall operation of the airport. Hopefully this is a one-time fix and we won't have to be seeing these for another 20 or 25 years. So, yes, sir.
I have one. Thank you, Mayor. Like the electrical vault, all of these things, will this be size enough for expansion if we decided to expand?
Councilman, Dibble is very aware of the plans to hopefully improve and increase the operations at the airport, so that is definitely part of the plan and to be put in place here.
Anyone else? I have a question. Reading all of the documents, the construction phase of this will be funded by the FAA, as I understand it.
That's correct.
But they've already established an amount. How does that work?
Well, the breakdown of the grant is going to roughly be 90% by FAA, 5%, or excuse me, 95% by FAA, 2.5% by the state, and 2.5% local. And that will kick in once the design and engineering work have been completed in this fiscal year.
But they're able to develop a construction amount without having plans developed?
I believe, Mayor, that the way that'll works is the final amount will be considered when the bids actually come in. So really what they do is they set a maximum amount, and then the final bid will be determined by, or the final dollar amount will be determined by those bids.
And as long as the bids comes in under that number?
We're good.
If they come in over that number, then what happens?
That I can't answer.
And the reason why I'm asking this is for the city's match. We have to anticipate also some numbers in our budget, and how we can arbitrarily pick numbers before the plans are drawn is a question in my mind. Craig?
Well, and John Cox, the airport manager, can certainly, who is very familiar with FAA procedures. Basically, what we start with here is what we call a current working estimate. A current working estimate reflects the estimated cost of the package of improvements which have been described in this particular item today. As the project is designed, that current working estimate will be refined to reflect things that may have happened as far as in the construction industry costs and things like that, the scope of the projects, the addition or deletion of some features and things like that. So at the time that the project is advertised for bids, that current working estimate may be modified so that if the current estimate is $4 million and everybody thought it was going to be $3 million, well, there's a decision point there. And so it's a matter of refinement through that design process, which leads to the bidding. But yes, bids can come in higher or lower. But by the time that we are at the time of advertising for bids, there's a pretty solid idea of what this is going to cost, because obviously both parties, or three parties, ADOT, FAA, and the City of Prescott, have to pay for it, and we all have to have our respective amounts.
So you're comfortable that in our budgeting process?
Yes.
That we can do it right? Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Comments from the public? Okay, do we have a motion on item D?
Mayor, I'll do this in two motions. I move to accept ADOT grant number E5S1 in the amount of $270,000. And I move to approve the authorization of services number 3 under city contract number 2014-029A3 with Dibble Engineering in an amount not to exceed $290,797.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. John, one motion is adequate? Okay. Motion made and seconded. Let's vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Item E.
Item 2E, acceptance of hazardous fuels mitigation funding grants from each of the Arizona Division of Forestry and Yavapai County.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Dennis Light, Fire Chief, City of Prescott. I'm before you this afternoon to hopefully seek your approval to accept two grants that we've been made aware of specific to awards. The application for these grants were applied for back in May of this year. The first is through the Arizona Division of Forestry, and the latter is through Yavapai County Title III. The latter of which we've already received the check, and it's in hands with finance folks. Both these grants are used for mitigation efforts associated with fuels management and basically reducing the hazardous fuels in some selected areas. It's a 90-10 grant with 90% of the funding coming from the government and other portions of it being supplanted by camp projects, and 10% by the city for the United Christian Youth Camp and Southwest Indian Bible Camp. With that, I'd entertain any questions that you may have.
Steve?
Chief Light, question. I know that we approved a brush crushing machine. Have we received that yet?
Courtesy of Stephanie, it shipped as of last week. It has not yet been approved. It has not yet received or is in place. No.
Is that a piece of machinery we plan on using to help with this cost?
Yes, the masticator, I don't believe it is being used to defer any of this cost, no.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. There's nothing binding with this agreement, with this, receiving these monies as far as hiring somebody or keeping extraneous things on their department, is it?
No, no, sir. What it is there'll be some seasonal employees. In fact, I've worked with Chief Willis on that particular item because it is a concern of mine that I ensure that we have a fair and equitable recruiting process that's in place to hopefully diversify perhaps that workforce and also give some opportunities to perhaps some younger folks to perhaps explore a career that could be forthcoming in their future.
Thank you.
Anyone else? And our 10% is budgeted. Okay.
That's permanent.
Any comments from the public? Okay, do we have a motion?
Mayor, move to approve the acceptance of hazardous fuels mitigation funding grants from the Arizona Division of Forestry in the amount of $175,018 and Yavapai County in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, we're going to item F, and we're going to have to read each of these ordinances in their entirety, and then we'll call for the motion and vote, and we'll have to take them one by one, as I understand. So why don't you go ahead and start with ordinance 4900.
Okay. So item 2F, adoption of 2012 International Building, Fire, and Wildland Urban Interface Codes and local amendments. Did you want to?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As you remember, we've gone through a long process to get to this point. 2 weeks ago, you adopted the resolutions making the codes public record. We've received no other comments in that time. This is for the building and fire and wildland. And if you have any other questions, I can be here to answer them. I know that we have Sandy with the YCCA in the audience also.
I have a question. I know you can answer this one. The new energy code, and noticing some of the new windows that I've noticed in the community have a sticker on them that states that they're a California fire rated window. What does that actually mean?
It actually, usually you can't have vinyl in a wildland area. So those can actually, they're fire rated so they can be in a wildland area and they'll meet the energy efficiency. The problem that we had before with wildland and energy efficiency is you can't have metal clad windows and meet the energy because they have the transfer. So now they have the vinyl and other materials that can be used that meet the requirements for wildland and the energy code at the same time.
Thanks for that explanation.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. Don't have a question, Randy. Do have a compliment, both to you and the fire department, for the manner that you've handled this over the last number of years. This isn't something that transpired over the last 30 days. And you've done a great job of interfacing with the public, with the contractors, with the various organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce. So you've done a very good job in moving this forward. And I think our citizens will appreciate reaching a different level of insurance coding so that their premiums don't skyrocket because we ignored our duty.
Thank you.
I have one other question, if I
Go
can.
ahead.
Within these codes, because I haven't had the wherewithal to read every single one of them, by the way, it's pretty massive. I'd ask the question that when these codes are adopted, is there flexibility locally for the different departments to possibly waive any of the code based upon knowing it's not a cookie cutter community we live in, to understand that what might be in the code may not be realistic for any given area? Is that flexibility available to the department heads?
No. We have already taken that into consideration. We have worked with the local contractors and made the changes to the code and taken out anything that doesn't truly apply to the city of Prescott. So we've adopted the requirements for the 30-pound snow load. We don't have the 60-pound snow load. So we've already made those changes. Now, in saying that, there is a section that says alternate means and method can be brought to the building official and I can make a ruling on that. So if someone wanted to build a building upside down, if they can prove it works and it meets the intent of the code, we can approve it that way. So there is a section that anyone can bring anything to us as an alternate means and method.
So any technical changes to the code then would have to go back to the Planning Commission, back to the council for change?
Right, if we were going to change the ordinance, then I would have to go back probably to the Advisory and Appeals Board, UDC, and then back to council, because we'll be changing the ordinance at that time.
Okay, so the last question I would have is that do these codes that we're about to adopt today, do they fall lockstep with the county, Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, so they're all on the same page?
Not exactly, but extremely close. The problem is there's differences. The county has 20-pound to 60-pound snow loads, different winds, different seismic things. They have different requirements because they have no water and sewer as infrastructure.
Okay.
So we have worked extremely close with Prescott Valley and the county, and have read each other's, made each other's changes, and worked together as close as we possibly can, so that I'm going to say 90–95% of these ordinances are the same as they are in the county, as they are in Prescott Valley. I cannot speak to Chino because they haven't been as much involved as we would know, but I can say between Prescott and the Yavapai County, except for the energy code, that we are as close as 95%.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Chris?
Yeah, Sandy, you or your membership got any concerns? None whatsoever. Thank you.
That was going to be my question. Sandy, you've reviewed all of the code changes we're making today?
Absolutely.
Okay, and your organization is fine?
A-okay.
Okay. Do we, anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none. Let's read 4900, and then we'll take the motion.
Ordinance number 4900-1438, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III of the city code of the city of Prescott by repealing section 3-17-2 and adopting a new section 3-17-2 by adopting that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2012 Administrative Building Code Amendments, which was made a public record by resolution number 4243-1452, and providing penalties therefore.
Okay, do we have a motion on ordinance number 4900-1438?
Mayor, move to approve ordinance number 4900-1438, Administrative Code and Local Amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay.
Ordinance number 4901-1439, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III, Chapter 1 of the City Code of the City of Prescott entitled International Building Code by repealing Section 3-1-2 and appointing a new Section 3-1-2 by adopting by reference that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2012 International Building Code Amendments, which was made a public record by resolution number 4244-1453, and providing penalties therefore.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 4901-1439, International Building Code and Local Amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0. Ordinance number 4902-1440, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III, Chapter 8 of the City Code of the City of Prescott entitled International Residential Code for 1 and 2 family dwellings by repealing Section 3-8-2 and adopting a new Section 3-8-2 by adopting by reference that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2012 International Residential Code for 1 and 2 family dwellings amendments, which was made a public record by resolution number 4245-1454 and providing penalties therefore.
Any questions on 4902? Okay, do you have a motion?
Mayor, move to approve ordinance number 4902-1440, International Residential Code and Local Amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Let's vote.
Passes 6-0. Ordinance number 4903-1441, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III, Chapter 6 of the City Code of the City of Prescott entitled International Plumbing Code by repealing Section 3-6-2 and adopting a new Section 3-6-2 by adopting by reference that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2012 International Plumbing Code Amendments, which was made a public record by Resolution Number 4246-1455, and providing penalties therefor.
Mayor, I move to, I'm sorry. Do we need to stop, or can I make a motion?
Go for it.
Okay. Mayor, I'd like to move to adopt ordinance number 4903-1441, International Plumbing Code and local amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay. 4904.
Ordinance number 4904-1442, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III, Chapter 2 of the City Code of the City of Prescott entitled International Mechanical Code by repealing Section 3-2-2 and adopting a new Section 3-2-2 by adopting by reference that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2012 International Mechanical Code Amendments, which was made a public record by Resolution Number 4247-1456 and providing penalties therein.
Mayor, move to adopt ordinance number 4904-1442, International Mechanical Code and local amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0. Ordinance number 4905-1443, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III, Chapter 5 of the City Code of the City of Prescott entitled International Fuel Gas Code by repealing Section 3-5-2 and adopting a new Section 3-5-2 by adopting by reference that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2012 International Fuel Gas Code Amendments, which was made a public record by Resolution Number 4248-1457, providing penalties therefor.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mayor, move to approve ordinance number 4905-1443, International Fuel Gas Code and local amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0. Ordinance number 4906-1444, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III, Chapter 7 of the City Code of the City of Prescott by repealing Section 3-18-2 and adopting a new Section 3-18-2 by adopting by reference that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2012 International Energy Conservation Code Amendments, which was made a public record by Resolution Number 4249-1458 and providing penalties therein.
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve ordinance number 4906-1444, International Energy Conservation Code and local amendments.
Second.
Okay. Next.
Passes 6-0.
Oh, let's vote.
We already did.
Need to vote. Okay. Okay, now
Okay.
4907.
Ordinance number 4907-1445, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title III, Chapter 7 of the City Code of the City of Prescott entitled National Electrical Code by repealing Section 3-7-2 and adopting a new Section 3-7-2 by adopting by reference that certain document entitled City of Prescott 2011 National Electrical Code Amendments, which was made a public record by Resolution Number 4250-1459 and providing penalties therein.
Mayor, move to adopt ordinance number 4907-1445, National Electrical Code and local amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay.
Ordinance number 4909-1447, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title VI, Chapter 1 of the City Code of the City of Prescott, entitled International Fire Code, and adopting by reference that certain document entitled the 2012 International Fire Code, which document was made a public record by Resolution Number 4253-1462, and also adopting by reference that certain document entitled the City of Prescott 2014 Amendments to the 2012 International Fire Code, which document was made a public record by Resolution Number 4253 and 146-1462, and providing for a delayed effective date therefore.
Mayor, I'd like to move to adopt ordinance number 4909-1448, 447, International Fire Code and local amendments.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay.
Ordinance number 4910-1448, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Prescott, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending Title VI, Chapter 2 of the City Code of the City of Prescott entitled Wildland Urban Interface Code and adopting by reference that certain document entitled 2012 International Wildland Urban Interface Code, which document was made a public record by resolution number 4254-1463, and also adopting by reference that certain document entitled the City of Prescott 2014 Amendments to the 2012 International Wildland Urban Interface Code, which document was made a public record by the resolution number 4254-1463, and providing for a delayed effective date therefore.
Mayor, move to adopt ordinance number 4910-1448, International Wildland Urban Interface Code and local amendments.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Let's vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
I'm sorry, Dana.
It's like Dana was filibustering over there or something.
When you get your breath, we'll go to item G.
Okay, I'm ready. Item 2G, approval of rezoning of property at 1045 Whipple Street from multifamily medium to business general, APN 115-09-019A, lot acre, 0.66 acre, or lot area, 0.66 acre, owner Prescott Charities Incorporated, applicant Susan Adams, file number RZ 14-001.
Good afternoon, Mayor and
Hi,
Council. I've placed an overhead air photo of the subject property. It's the location of the Prescott Child Development Center, which was approved back in 1992 under a previous code as a conditional use permit. And this request, I will say at the outset, by Prescott Charities to rezone the subject property from multifamily medium to business general is consistent with a general plan designation, which shows this general area as being commercial. And the applicant has mentioned through this process that potential future uses include general or medical office. A little bit about some of the surrounding zoning. There's a broad mix of uses. I think you're familiar with the location of Whipple and Gale Gardner Way. To the west is business general. A little bit further to the west, business regional. On the north side of the roadway is neighborhood-oriented business regional, and then a location of industrial transition. There are some neighborhood or residentially zoned properties on the north side, but staff anticipates that given the commercial development in this area, or the commercial nature of the zoning and the changes over time, that we'd anticipate that these properties would also at some point in time in the future request to be rezoned to commercial. The Plan and Zoning Commission did discuss this request at their August 14th meeting, ultimately unanimously recommended to approve the rezoning to business general. With that, make you aware that Susan Adams, agent for the applicant Prescott Charities, is here today to answer any questions that you have, and I believe we also have Brad Newman in the office audience should you have any questions for him.
Okay. Charlie?
Mayor, thank you, and Tom, thanks for the presentation. My only concern about rezoning this in this neighborhood is the current proliferation of drug and alcohol recovery services that are happening throughout that entire area. We have a detox facility. We have somebody who's wanting to bring approximately 20 beds into a business facility that's located in pretty close proximity to the property. We have an existing community residence that, although it has not registered, we know that it's in operation in that neighborhood. And by going to business general with this property, it opens the door for additional uses along those lines. Right now, it qualifies for the residential component, with the exception that it's within 1,200 feet of an existing. So I'm not worried about that, but I have to throw it out there. By making this change, we open up the door where we've already got several of these facilities coming in to have even more clustering in the commercial end of recovery.
Is the applicant here? Okay. Would you want to come down? Any comment to Mr. Arnold's, his comment?
No, except to say that that's Right now, it's the focus is brain, and we are doing a naturopath who specializes in hormones and neurotransmitters, an occupational therapist who works with special needs children, and myself doing neurofeedback for a variety of things, which includes addiction, but that's actually only about 10% of people that walk through the door. It's primarily depression, anxiety, and such.
So the opportunity for a therapy center is not on the horizon at this moment.
Thank God, no. That's a little bit more than I can handle at 60. So, no, just.
Okay, Steve, you had a question.
Yeah, I guess my my question is this the property is going to change hands, and the Child Development Center is going away?
Yeah, I think Brad could probably speak to that more than I could.
Well, you got to get Brad up here anyway.
Brad, you got to come up here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Officer Snerdley.
Hello, Mayor, Council. Yes.
Yes, good. They're going away?
Well, they're going away from there, yes.
But are they going to be relocated?
I don't know that.
Okay. But we are selling the building?
No, we are selling the building.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Okay. Greg, you had, Chris.
No, I think it's been answered. I was going to ask what type of medical office was going in there. I share Councilman Arnold's thoughts. At this point, I never want to make it easier for an industry to expand that we don't yet have a handle on, that is operating in the shadows. Thank you.
Hey, Tom.
I have a question for Brad. All this is contingent. I mean, you would need to sell this so you can go forward if you were to go forward on another facility like you have here.
Yes.
So if denying this would hurt one and to prevent another, I mean, it's a rock and a hard spot at this point.
Well, as I understand it, it being commercial, that eliminates the 1,200-foot setback requirement that we're using for residential. Is that correct?
Well, actually, Mayor and Council, the current code, the current land development code, the buffer zone does apply as between a residentially zoned use, which is, if Tom, can you point that out? I think it's kind of kitty corner, the other right, a little to the left. There you go. It's our understanding that at Whipple and whatever that other middle cross street is, there is a residential sober living home. And we do understand, based on sort of knowledge, even though they haven't registered, that it was there prior to the adoption of or adoption changes to the land development code. So for the most part, we know that they're legal non-conforming in that location, hence the lack or they aren't required to apply. But as between a residential, a community residence in a residential zone, the buffer zone does apply to a proposed community residence in a commercial or non-residential zone. It's only as between commercial and commercial, or non-residential, so the 200-bed or 120-bed proposed facility, so that 8-shaped building adjacent to the school, that as being residential and this location being residential, the buffer zone would not apply. But since there's one on that corner, they would be precluded under the current code from putting in a residential or community residence type facility, regardless of the whether it's current zoning under the proposed rezoning. That buffer zone, just to make it clear, a buffer zone applies to community residence uses. It doesn't apply, for instance, if this were a medical facility, that were a detox medical facility, didn't have a residential component, obviously the land development code buffer zone doesn't apply to those types of uses, just the residential or community residence type uses.
Mayor, could I throw just on that? So the way I understand it, as I said, operating in the shadows, there is a home here that hasn't registered with us that we know nothing about, that is operating in this place. Total disrespect for the city and trying to get a handle on the situation.
Well, I won't editorialize, but we do know that the home, this community residence on the corner at Whipple, kind of kitty corner from the school, is there. We based on the information we received even from I think it was the school principal, it's been there for a number of years. The code amendments that the city adopted in a year ago spring asked for sort of voluntary registration, and we couldn't mandate it. You know, that's sort of the facts of the situation.
And we heard from the applicant that she doesn't have a desire to sell to that.
It appears that it appears that the intent of this use is a medical office type facility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Charlie?
Just in follow-up, Tom, if, say, 5 years from now, the current tenant was to move out and another use wanted to come in, what process would they have to go through to get approval, unless it's exactly similar to this use?
For community residents in this particular location?
Let's assume that it became a gathering treatment facility like we have on Gurley Street.
Okay. And you're talking about the subject property or the
subject property?
Yeah, the subject property. Well, ultimately, it's potentially grandfathered in the event that the code were changed. But yeah, it would be any use permitted within that district would be able to go in there. Now, in the event that you still had the distance separation issue, less than 1,200 feet between the community residents, still would be unable to put residential or community residents at that location.
And I think my concern about the residential component has been taken care of through our conversations. But what I'm looking at is could this entire neighborhood over the span of the next decade turn into Recovery Central, where all these properties are being converted to commercial, they're all being used for treatment, you've got a 120 unit complex there. That's what I'm worried about by granting the rezoning. And I guess it's truly a risk, because once we give it to them, once we say, okay, we're going to give you business general, they are now given the right to do whatever they want within the code.
Well, that's correct, with those uses that are permitted within the business general, and those recovery type, therapy type services are permitted outright within the business general district.
And you know, Charlie, this is a half a block from Miller Valley School.
Yep.
Anyone else? Any comments from the public? Anything more, Brad?
No.
It's your opportunity.
It says I got 5 minutes, and I've only took 3. So I've just met Miss Adams today,
Sure.
but we've been in correspondence and working together on this for quite some time. This has been a business operation since '92, so we're just catching up with all.
Well, and those of us that have known you for a long time, we know that you're as concerned about our community as we are.
Absolutely.
And I wish there was more Brad Newman, so thank you.
Be a lot more guys over parked outside.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Tom, can you throw up there the zoning map? That piece of property that sits, I guess it would be to the east in the yellow? What is that zone and what is that building?
That is multifamily zoned, and that is the Universal, the church on Sunset Avenue. And
Granite Peak University.
that's correct.
The Oddfellows Hall.
So they don't have to have a paved parking lot back there? Yes. Wow, okay.
Okay. Anything further, gentlemen? Do we have a motion?
She crashed it.
How do they get them? How do they have that? What are we doing?
Pre-existing.
Again,
I'm sorry?
no motion?
So, Mayor, if we could have just another couple of moments
Okay.
of discussion. And Brad, I think you understand where our concerns are, because you have significant multifamily, you have depressed property values in the area, which makes it a prime target for that type of future development. And I think that's just the challenge that we're having. It sounds like the use that you all intend to put in there is extremely compatible within the neighborhood. The concern becomes, once we make this change, there's no turning back and there's no knowing what could happen down the road. But I tend to try to avoid operating in the what-if world, because I can come up with 100 what-ifs. So my inclination, reluctantly, but my inclination is to ultimately move to approve the rezoning. We have enough guidelines within the land development code that if somebody came in and wanted to operate a facility related to anything medical or office space, they would have to comply with that. We have methods in place that would allow us to enforce parking capacity. I know that that's been a challenge for us, but with some things that I think we're looking at with code enforcement and with the fire department, we can fix those issues. And I don't think that we should hold back from what seems to be a reasonable request, knowing that we have the code in place to ensure that if something later comes down the pipe, it's not going to create a nightmare in the community.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Maybe I can also contribute one small bit, and I think this is pretty well known, but I'll just state it anyway. A rezoning is a legislative act. So every rezoning stands on its own. There is no precedent that's set. In other words, there is no sort of domino effect. You can draw the line anywhere you choose in the sense of going from left to right or west to east. In other words, the church property, which is currently multifamily, if they came in for a rezoning for office, I mean, that could be denied based on legislative policy at the time. So it doesn't, if the council were to rezone this, it doesn't obligate the city, future councils to rezone, going from left to right or west to east any further down. Again, it depends on the situation and the current, policy decisions at the time. So again, this rezoning stands on its own, as does every other rezoning in the area or anywhere in the city.
Okay. Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. It's apparent that there's a willing buyer and a willing seller for the property. The question then becomes, what do we do to the properties that are all next door? Equally to Charlie and Chris, I've got some concerns about that neighborhood taking on a whole different, dynamic than what it is. Is there a different way to accomplish between the willing buyer and the seller what their choice is? For example, if they want to continue to use it as it is today, being used as an office, is there a special use process that can be employed rather than rezoning, open Pandora's box like Charlie's nervous about for the next buyer that comes along, and all of a sudden you've got a deal where you can't go backwards without doing a taking. But with a special use permit approach, as long as it functions under the current usage, it's entitled, that travels with that property.
Well, again, the current use is essentially daycare, and it's operating under a use permit already. The proposed use, which is medical office effectively, is not, in other words, the use permit is very specific to, because this is currently multifamily residential. So the use permit allows for a daycare operation, effectively preschool daycare, in that location. The proposed use, medical office, would not be allowed under the current use permit, and there is no, daycare or preschool is allowed in multifamily with the use permit. Medical office or professional office requires a rezoning to at least this business general.
So you can't use a special use permit to have a special use for whatever it was the lady wants to use it for.
Our land development code doesn't have that because it's effectively a rezoning to professional office, and that's what they're, in other words, that's what this business general zone allows for. Is in this case professional office or medical office, that type of use.
Yeah, see, I have a problem like Chris does. This is almost like a Sophie's choice. You're going to hurt one to benefit another, and this is not an easy one.
Additional follow-up question for Tom. How many parking spots are on the site?
19.
Okay, and do you know what the current occupancy load of that building is? I was just thinking about that and realized that our fire department's, I think, gone already.
I don't offhand, Councilman.
I mean, the 19 spots provides a pretty big limitation to the number of occupants that the building can handle, which I think in turn is really one of the controls that would prevent potentially what we're fearing could be a use down the road. But I go back to the problem we're having on West Gurley, where you've got a building with almost no parking spots, and they're consistently pushing the envelope on how many people they can shove in there.
And as long as this continues to be multifamily, it is protected by the 1,200-foot buffer rule because of the use down the street.
Well, no, it still is. Even the rezoning, because you have you have on the corner there, basically two lots to the right. You have a community residence in a residential zone. The buffer zone applies from residential to commercial. Where it doesn't apply is only, I shouldn't say commercial, non-residential. So if it's non-residential to non-residential, there's no buffer. But if it's residential to non, or residential to commercial, then the buffer zone does apply. So currently, that particular parcel is within the 1,200-foot buffer zone of the community residence on the corner. Two lots to the right, essentially, just to the right of the church, across the street from the church. And that use is essentially legal non-conforming, so it's been established. So even if they cease operating, there would still be a year before that use is abandoned. Before anybody, so that 1,200-foot buffer would arguably still remain in effect, because somebody could come in at within that year period before the abandonment becomes effective. So, I mean, there is that sort of, the code does preclude a residential community residence, regardless of the zoning, on the subject property currently.
I think everyone can see the concerns of the council and where we're attempting to get in a position we can have a little more control over what has been happening in our community that just kind of happened. Last week, there was a hearing before the committee that looks at uses of buildings, one down on Willow Creek Road that had been a medical office. And the new use that they're requesting is a treatment center, which is permissible. I was involved in that conversation, and the thing that I brought up was that as a medical building, people would come and go. As a treatment center, a group of people come for a longer period of time, and as the breaks are taken during the day, we know what happens now in parking lots, particularly in treatment centers. Some of them, the smoke gets like an atomic bomb cloud during the breaks, and that was the only caution that we could talk about in this going from medical to a treatment center. So I'm inclined to, having known all the principles of Catholic Charities so long, and knowing the things that they've done in our community that have been good, I would be inclined to support what they need to do to use the building or sell the building, whatever needs to be done, and just hope that the new folks would consider what's going on in our community and be as helpful to us as they could. So
I agree with you, Mayor.
You've still got something, Chris.
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to kind of say again what you say, Brad. I'd vote for anything that supported your mission. You've been nothing but good for Prescott. This situation that's going on just makes things a little strange for us. I think if this moves forward, I would support it, and just really rely on the character of the applicant, that the intentions are true.
Charlie, you want to take this any further?
I think that would be something for afterwards. Yes, Mayor, I think based on the conversation and knowing that we've got some positive partners in the community that are a part of this, I would move to approve rezoning 14-001, amending the zoning of 1045 Whipple Street from multifamily medium MF-M to business general BG.
Second.
You have a second? Okay. Motion made and seconded. Let's vote.
Passes 6-0.
And just
luck.
for the record, Mayor, the rezoning ordinance takes effect in 30 days.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item H.
Item 2H, adoption of resolution number 4257-1466, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Northern Arizona Council of Governments to perform administrative functions of the Community Development Block Grant Program, City Contract number 2015-045.
Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, I placed the scope of services Exhibit A to this IGA with NACOG for the administration implementation of the city's annual Community Development Block Grant Program. It's on the overhead screen. I won't go through the specifics of the scope of services. We'll tell you, though, that these are many of the day-to-day responsibilities of our former previous employee, that was a city employee, that took on the responsibilities of implementing the city's Community Development Block Grant Program. Pursuant to the provisions of the agreement, the city would pay NACOG $2,500 per month for the remaining 9 months of the fiscal year. There's been an additional $2,500 added in the event of unanticipated services, in the event that something comes up with a particular application. So the contract amount for the remainder of this fiscal year is not to exceed $25,000. And the source of these funds is the city's annual federal CDBG allocation. The IGA does provide for 2 one-year contract extensions, their options, at an annual rate of $30,000 per year, resulting in an anticipated savings of approximately $19,000 per year for the city to work with NACOG with the administration, for the administration of the CDBG program. Now, I know you're all very well aware of NACOG's extensive experience in CDBG. In fact, they manage the program, a small regional program for 4 counties, and most of the cities within the 4 counties, Navajo, Apache, Coconino, and Yavapai County, they have done so. And Isabel Rollins has been working with the local NACOG group for literally over 10 years. We've contacted HUD through this process, and they're supportive of the IGA with NACOG for these services. And unfortunately, Isabel was unable to be here today, but with your approval of this resolution in the IGA, we'll be meeting with her Monday of next week to be able to transition and begin implementing the scopes of services on October 1st. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Charlie.
Mayor, thank you. Tom, would our local appointed board still be responsible for vetting and making recommendations to the council?
That's correct. And I would add that ultimately council is still responsible for identifying and voting and adopting a resolution which would approve the future year annual allocation. So really no change with respect to the roles and responsibilities of the committee. Staff will be doing some of the planning functions, and in fact, May of next year, the city will need to be submitting a revised consolidated plan for the next 5 years. And in fact, we'll be doing a meeting with the advisory committee, I think it's the second week in October, to start talking about that plan update, looking at what needs to be included within the consolidated plan. So the big change is the day-to-day work and working with subrecipients, preparing contracts, ensuring compliance with HUD regulations, interfacing with HUD. The staff's very enthusiastic about this opportunity. We think it's a very good deal for everybody involved.
Perfect. And then my second of 3 questions revolves around conflicts of interest, specifically 8.7 in the contract. In the past, I haven't seen NACOG as an applicant for any of the funds, for any of their projects. By them facilitating this, does it preclude them from being able to apply through the process for funding?
No, it's an interesting question, yeah, and I'm not sure they would actually qualify being really the administrator for the northern Arizona 4-county area. So,
Okay.
yeah. Ultimately, I think their role and responsibility is to ensure, with the regional program and the state of Arizona Department of Housing, is that compliance with the federal regulations, which get passed down through the state of Arizona, ultimately through NACOG to the local communities.
And then last but not least, assuming this is approved, once they're on board, and as you mentioned, staff is starting to look at the longer term planning, I'd like an agenda item to come back sooner rather than later, discussing the priorities that this council has as it relates to CBDG funds and what programs are available, because there are some things specific as it relates to economic development, job creation, and opportunities like that that I don't feel we're currently utilizing to the fullest extent. And so I'd like to make sure as we start down this path, I know the committee is interested in some direction from the council as to how to spend some of those funds. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Steve?
Tom, I know in the past process where we've had people that received the okay to receive dollars from our block grant, some of those contracts have not been completed. Are those ones that have not been completed going to be on the front line to be done quickly? I know I've been contacted by several folks that are afraid they're going to have to go through the process all over again once it switches to NACOG. Or are we going to instruct NACOG to make sure that those ones that have already received awards be pushed as quickly as we can for funding?
Yeah, that's a very good point. In fact, there are a couple of projects that are ready to go out to bid. We get bids, and they will be at the top of the list with respect to that requirement. A couple of them, actually, we did go out to bid, and the bids were unfavorable, and then we lost the employee. And so we're geared up and ready to go with the two specific projects that I'm thinking
I suggest that be number one on the list, because making promises to people through this body that sits here, as well as a screening body, and then have it just sit there on the hot plate and nothing happening is not the right thing to do. So I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, Mayor, I just would like to concur with Councilman Arnold on that, getting that conversation going about how to best use those grants, and can we use it to push our economic development, which really is the ultimate thing that brings people out of a low position that they're at in life, and will bring them out as a good job, good paying job. And if there's opportunities for that, I sure would like to talk about that and support it.
Anyone else? Comments from the public? Tom, my question, is this purely an economic decision?
Well, it's an economic decision, but I think we're getting excellent quality services with the experience that NACOG has in this field. And so one of the difficulties with the CDBG position, it's very technical. In fact, it's often described as being really the mother of red tape programs, if you will, Mayor, that it's very detailed, and everything from the procurement process to the application process to the closeout financial process is very, very time-consuming, and you really need to have a very experienced person to be able to gain the greatest benefit from the funds.
So, yes.
Mayor, I think there's also a practical aspect, and this has been our experience, that frankly, the administration of this program does not justify a full-time position. And we have had a full-time position in the past, and we've effectively had to add to the maximum that HUD will allow us, will pay us for. And so we've had to effectively subsidize the program administration for, it's community development block grant, so there is a benefit there, but it's not a $3 million program, it's a $250,000 program. And so if we don't need a full-time position, we shouldn't be providing a full-time position, but that's where the issue comes in, because people want full-time jobs, and that has been one of the concerns that we've had, and this particular contract will allow us to accomplish what we want to accomplish without effectively having to overpay for a part-time function.
Jim, you want to say something?
No, I'm just complimenting Geis and McConnell for bringing this thing forward. I mean, we've been messing around with this for the last 8-10 years, and you're right, Greg. We've gone from full-time to part-time. We've had the Jimmy rig things, and that's not the way to do it. I think this is a good value for the dollar. It's a federal program, state program. We don't have to provide the personnel to administer it. We pick and choose the things we'd like them to spend money on through a citizen group, and that's what we do. I think it's a good thing. So.
Okay. Now, any comments from the public? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt resolution number 4257-1466.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay. Item I.
Item 2I, award of bid and contract for the Sundog Landfill Final Cap Repairs Project to Earth Resources Corporation in the amount of $1,049,941.38. City contract number 2015-044 Solid Waste Fund.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The city owns a landfill that served Prescott and the surrounding community from the 1930s until about 1998, when it became inactive. The landfill occupies approximately 55 acres and is located on the south side of Prescott Lakes Parkway at Sundog Ranch Road. The landfill was granted a small landfill exemption by the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, and it was officially closed on February 21st of 2002. Post-closure activities that are identified in the final closure plan that we submitted to the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality included monitoring and maintenance of the final cap that's on the landfill. Since the official closure, the Solid Waste Division, with assistance from the Street Maintenance Division, have been maintaining the final cap, the side slopes, the drainage channels, and also the access roads and several other pieces of infrastructure up on the landfill. However, over the years, the natural settlement of the landfill, coupled with wind and rain erosion, have caused the final cap grades and slopes to fall outside of the specs that are required by ADEQ. And lately, we've been having a lot of rain, and I was up on the landfill about a week ago and took some pictures, and I'd like to show you some of the erosion we're experiencing. This is ruts in one of the main access roads to the top of the landfill. Normally, you could just send a grader in there and maybe straighten out the road, but you can't do that because it's a landfill, and underneath the final cap is trash, and it's got a liner on top of it, so we can't displace the liner. We also have exposed liner on some portions of the east side of the landfill. It's an extreme slope on the east side, and so water's just running off of there and taking away all the dirt. And then also, forgive my photography skills, this is a piece of the east side of the landfill slope, and you can see how steep that slope is. So hopefully we're going to take care of that, take some of that slope off of that east side with this project.
Can I ask you a question, Stephanie, on the exposed liner that's out there? I know once you cover it with dirt, take away that oxygen, take away that sun, it lasts a long time. When it's exposed to that sun, is it deteriorating the liner at all?
Councilman, yes, it does deteriorate the liner, and so we're going to have to go back in some places and put in some new liner on those areas. In 2012, the city entered into a design contract with Tetra Tech for plans and specs to repair the landfill cap. And based on the design, we ran a competitive bid process, which we subsequently had to reject the bids because the bids came in well in excess of the money we had budgeted for the project. We did another competitive bid process. We had a pre-bid meeting in August of 2014, and we received 4 bids on August 28th. The department recommends award to the Earth Resources Corporation as the lowest responsible bidder. Written confirmation of their bid has been received, and verification of the company's license, bonding, references, and past performance on similar projects has been completed. The schedule for this project is 8 weeks or 40 days, and we're hoping to complete this project finally after trying to get here for 2 years by the end of this calendar year. Funding of $1,049,942 for this FY15 project is available in the Solid Waste Fund. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Steve.
I do. I'm just concerned about how long this final cap process lasts. You know, I mean, that's $1 million. How many times are we going to spend $1 million before we get that thing vegetated in the right way and the dirt in the right spots so that we don't have that kind of expense on a regular basis?
Mayor and Council, Councilman Blair, unfortunately, it's a perpetual maintenance project on the landfill. The money that we're going to spend for this project is going to do a lot of catch-up that we didn't do over the past year since the closure. But even with this $1 million of spending, there's no guarantee that when we get heavy rains and snowfall, that we won't have to continuously monitor the erosion and repair the erosion.
Can't we sneak it on the market and sell it to somebody?
I'm sure we could try that, Councilman. I don't know if we'd have any buyers.
As long as we don't discuss it on public access television.
Or KYC.
Thank you, Mayor. Stephanie, I'd just like to comment, this is a lot of money, but we're obligated to certain codes and restrictions and responsibilities. So it is what it is, and we've got to go down this road.
Yeah, it's not a nice road. Chris?
You know, Mayor, seeing that exposed liner, that really kind of worries me there because this is such an old landfill. There's probably no liner below. I'm guessing, do we know if there was? There probably isn't.
Oh, it was not a line.
It was just a hole in the ground.
It was a hole in the ground.
You know, back in the day, they used to bury everything. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me what kind of waste is down there. If this liner goes out, I could see water penetrating the landfill, and you got one end of it, it's going down into our groundwater, and on the other end of things, I'm guessing that the runoff to this probably goes right into Granite Creek. When it comes rolling off that hill, it probably goes into Granite Creek, and without that liner, it's going to be picking up every little thing that's in that trash and that old garbage and sucking it down in there, which could compound our problem. So I know this is a lot of money, but I think the problems we could have environmentally if we do not fix this, I mean, then we'll have the very state on our butt too for what's going on out there. So I hate to spend the money, but I think we need to spend it.
Why do you call it final?
The final cap? Because it's the final cap, Mayor.
And this is just adding a whole bunch of dirt, or more liner, more dirt?
It's more liner, it's more dirt, it's some geotextile membrane where we're real close to the garbage that's in the landfill. And there's also gabion baskets that are going to be built up on the landfill to help divert the water to different directions to help with the erosion. But it's more than just moving some dirt around. We're putting some channeling under the roadways and stuff like that.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments from the public? Okay, let's vote.
Mayor, I move to award the bid and contract for the Sundog Landfill Final Cap Repairs Project to Earth Resources Corporation in the amount of $1,049,941.38. City contract number 2015044.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please. Item J.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Item 2J, approval of purchase of 2 each 2015 Ford F-350 regular cab 4x4 replacement pickup trucks for the Recreation Services Department from Peoria Ford using State of Arizona contract ADSP 014-063237 pricing in the amount of $47,488.23 vehicle replacement fund.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Recreation Services is seeking your approval to purchase 2 F-350 four-wheel drive regular standard cab trucks for Peoria Ford on the State of Arizona contract for an amount of $47,488.23, which is available in the vehicle replacement fund. Currently, one of the vehicles is a 1996 with over 104,000 miles, and is currently not in a usable condition. The other truck is a 1997 with 126,000 miles, and it's in pretty poor mechanical condition. Both trucks have reached the end of their serviceable life. One of the new trucks will be equipped with skid plates underneath, and that'll be used for the trail maintenance section of the division. The other truck will be for the right-of-way landscape section for all the right-of-ways throughout Prescott that we maintain. It'll also be equipped with a snowplow ready package. It won't have a snowplow, but we have the package where we can buy a plow at a later date if we need it. Both trucks are regular cab trucks with 8-foot beds. We build these trucks basically for the jobs, and we need more bed space than we do cab space necessarily. the recommended action. Move to approve the 2 trucks using the state contract out of the vehicle replacement fund. Be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to congratulate you. I've seen the 2 trucks you guys sent to auction, and you have used every bit of them trucks up. And even these ones that you're hoping to replace right now, I mean, these guys are getting 20 years out of these trucks. So it looks like you guys take care of what you got, and I know the miles seem kind of low, but these things tend to do a lot of idling too as you're sitting around. So I'd like to support buying these trucks.
My question is not about the purchase of the trucks. I think it's a wise purchase. It's about the selling of the trucks. I have the opportunity to see catalogs for state and municipal vehicles that are for sale, and they go for next to nothing. Are we obligated to sell them under a contract, or is it just too much time to sell a vehicle and try to get some more money out of it?
Mayor and Council, when we replace a vehicle, we usually send it off to auction. We're under contract with Renee Bates out of Texas. We're under no obligation necessarily to auction the vehicle. What Fleet Services does is, in cases like this, when we are replacing vehicles, there might be a need in another department for a vehicle that doesn't use it quite as often. So we'll reassign the fleet first, and then when it's absolutely excess to the city,
So we may repurpose this vehicle.
we may repurpose it, yes.
Anyone else? Comments from the public? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, move to approve the purchase of 2 each 2015 Ford F-350 regular cab 4x4 pickups from Peoria Ford using State of Arizona contract ADSPO 14-063237, pricing in the total amount of $47,488.23.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay. Item K.
Item 2K, approval of purchase of 4 each marked patrol vehicles from Midway Chevrolet using State of Arizona law enforcement contract number ADSP 013-038803 in the amount of $248,031.24, and 2 each marked patrol vehicles from Peoria Ford using State of Arizona law enforcement contract number ADSP 013-038802 in the amount of $107,296.60, vehicle replacement fund.
Mayor and Council, the Police Department, working in conjunction with the Fleet Services Division, is requesting authorization to purchase a total of 6 new patrol vehicles. 4 of them will be 2015 Chevy Tahoes, and the other 2 will be 2015 Ford Interceptors. The vehicles are being purchased off of state contracts, and it should be noted that the Police Department currently operates 9 Chevy Tahoe vehicles and has been very pleased with their performance and maintenance history so far. The Ford Interceptor is a new product entering the law enforcement market, and the department would like to purchase 2 of these vehicles to test and evaluate them for future considerations. The Fleet Services Division replaces aging units used for patrol operations which are at or approaching 100,000 miles and becoming unreliable for emergency operations. The quotes received are on the state contract, and lost my train of thought. They're both on state contract, pardon me. Instead of having a dedicated prisoner transport van, one of these vehicles, one of the Ford Interceptors, is going to have a special prisoner compartment included in it, and that vehicle, from what I understand, PD will use to transport any combative prisoners they have over to Camp Verde to the jail. Funding of the $355,957.84 is budgeted in the FY15 Vehicle Replacement Fund for these vehicles. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. There's a lot of detail in the council memo that I'm not going to go over unless you'd like me to.
Charlie.
Mayor, thanks, and Stephanie, thank you for the presentation. We got an opportunity today to see what the new Interceptors look like, get to feel, touch, and see. Councilman Kuknio and I were going back and forth over engine size, and had the opportunity to talk with the vendor's rep and I think we're satisfied there. The one question I did have is on the unit that's going to be set up for the prisoner transport, will that also be able to be used during patrol operations?
I believe so, and Lieutenant Gill is here from PD. Let me ask him.
Yes.
Is that one a regular?
It will be. That would get more use out of that vehicle. Currently, the prisoner van is only used just for that, so it sits a lot. This will give us the ability to have a vehicle daily operations, but special services at the prison.
Fantastic. And with these new interceptors, I know DPS has shifted to them. They've ordered 400. There was an accident in Phoenix about a week and a half ago, and with the new safety features, that probably ended up saving that officer's life in that rear ending. So I look forward to seeing your guys' report after you've got a chance to use them, and I think we'll probably be making that shift into the future. So thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, just had working off what Councilman Arnold said, these things are rated for a 75-mile-an-hour rear-end crash, and I think as a policeman, you'd probably want something that would hold up pretty good, because it seems like that's pretty frequent. Like the fact that these are all-wheel drive, so we ought to be able to use them in adverse weather conditions. And unlike the other vehicles in our fleet, you know, these things need to start. So, but I did want to thank them. Last time we ordered the Tahoes, and then a couple meetings later, we got the cost for outfitting them. We asked that it be put on the same thing, and we got that now. So when these come, they're ready to go in action. There's no upgrading to it, so we got the complete price here, and looks pretty good. And I will volunteer to drive a couple of them back and save us on the delivery charge, and I think I could beat Councilman Arnold if he got in the Tahoe, so I'm ready.
I have some questions. Sometimes the devil's in the detail, and having been in this business a long time, I sometimes look for details. My first question is on the dealer-installed portion. $700 to paint a couple of doors on each side seems high to me, but I realize that they're only competitive in the bidding of the vehicle itself because of factory subsidy and so forth. But again, I think $700 per vehicle to paint a couple of white doors on each side is out of reason. Mark, this is a question for you. They were kind enough to send us copies of the invoice from Creative Communication. They're the upfitter on the chassis. Looking at the payment terms, looks like they award 5% discount if they're paid in 15 days, and I'm sure we pay our bills on vehicles in 15 days. I'm wondering why they did not extend that 5% discount that they're passing on to the dealer on to the city.
I don't know why they did or didn't.
Well,
obviously, we can pay our bills within 15 days.
I can understand why they didn't, because they will take the 5% discount because they will pay for the vehicles in 15 days because we pay them. And I think it's a legitimate question to ask the dealer not to pass, why he doesn't pass that discount for prompt payment on to the consumer, which is us.
Mayor, I can ask my vendor. We have some other purchases that we'll probably be doing through this vendor also, so I'll be sure to ask that question.
It's not an unusual
on the
deal.
outfitting.
It's not an unusual deal. We took advantage of it too.
Yeah, pretend like you're a car dealer, Stephanie.
We'll find out for sure.
Other than that, that question.
Well, I had a comment. Number one, thanks for bringing that up, because it avoided me having to bring it up, and you know, I'm a taxpayer too, and some of that's my money. But I just want to make a comment. I've ridden with both Charlie and Chris. They've been very gracious to taking me where I need to go. I'll assure you, it is my humbled opinion that Charlie can outrace Chris any day.
Here come old yellow. Yeah. But
Not with police
but I wish
sitting
you
in
would
the
follow
audience, I
that
tell
up.
you that.
Mayor, I will, and I'll let you
like
know.
I say, I know on automobiles we pay promptly, and they will take advantage of that 5%. It's a little more than $1,000 each upfit, and I think that should be passed on to us.
I will double check it. It could be that it was in error also. These quotes go back and forth pretty quickly, and sometimes they forget to change data, so I'll double check it.
Okay. Or tell them there's an old car dealer that's watching them. Yeah,
I will, Mayor.
okay. Anything else? Do we have a motion?
Mayor, move to approve the purchase of 4 each marked patrol vehicles from Midway Chevrolet using State of Arizona law enforcement contract ADSPO 13-038803 in the amount of $248,031.24, and 2 each marked patrol vehicles from Peoria Ford using State of Arizona law enforcement contract ADSPO 13-038802 in the amount of $107,926.60.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Let's vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Item L.
Item 2L, approval for payment of attorney's fees in the amount of $22,933 for legal services to the City of Prescott Public Safety Personnel Retirement System, PSPRS Board, by the law firm of Ryan Rapp and Underwood.
Mayor, Council, this is mine. As you know, the state law, the state PSPRS law creates or requires a city to have local boards, both a fire board and a police board. The state law also requires that the employer, in this case the city, pay all of the costs incurred by the board, including legal fees, and the state law also requires that the board have independent legal counsel, so it essentially prevents, for instance, the city attorney's office from representing the board. So this was a bill from the board's former law firm from February 2014 through July 2014. Primarily one attorney working on various board matters, including, and certainly not the least of which was the Julian Ashcraft hearing. So this is really, the board, the local board, the local fire board did meet in early September and recommended or approved this bill. So and now it's on to council to approve the appropriation of the $22,000 and change. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Pay the bill.
Jim.
That was from last time.
That was from last time, Mayor.
Wasn't you?
No.
Okay. You know, comments? Do you have a motion?
Mayor, move to approve payment of attorney's fees in the amount of $22,933 to the law firm of Ryan Rapp and Underwood.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay. Item M.
Item 2M, approval to enter into a settlement agreement with release of claims regarding case number CV-08204-PHX, also known as CV-11-08204-PCT-DJC, Vicente versus City of Prescott et al.
Mayor, Council, this is a request for the council to approve the settlement agreement. You have a draft of the agreement before you. Essentially, the plaintiff in the case, Mr. Vicente, agrees, and his wife agree to dismiss their case fully, agree not to appeal the granting of summary judgment by the federal court. So essentially, they're dismissing their final claim against all parties, the city, and all the other named defendants in the case. Each side agrees to bear its own costs and fees in the case, and essentially, if upon approval of this, we'll file a stipulation to dismiss with prejudice, which means the case is done. Again, the agreement's very simple. It's a straightforward dismissal of the case with prejudice, and each side to bear its own costs and fees. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Questions, anyone? Okay, so it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
Okay. Do you have a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the settlement agreement and release of claims in the Vicente versus the City of Prescott, CV-08204-PHX, aka CV-11-08204-PCT-DGC.
Second.
Made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
Okay, item N.
Item 2N, City Council meeting schedule for the November and December holidays. Mayor and Council, this item is presented for approval of a revised City Council meeting schedule for the months of November and December 2014. This proposed schedule will comply with the city charter requirement of holding a council meeting at least 2 times per month, and it recognizes the upcoming Veterans holiday as well as the end-of-the-year holidays. The proposal is in November, December is to hold the first meeting of the month as a combined workshop and regular voting meeting, and the third meeting of the month as a regular voting meeting. If approved, the dates of the meetings for November would be November 4th and November 18th, and December 2nd and December 16th. And at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
It's a beautiful thing.
Any questions? Council? Public? Need a motion?
Mayor, move to approve the revised city council meeting schedule for November and December 2014, set forth in the council agenda memo.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Vote, please.
Passes 6-0.
We're adjourned.